I've got this contrarian view. I think that every billion-dollar SaaS business or billion-dollar SaaS category actually starts as a micro SaaS business. When it starts, it kind of looks like just a tool or just a toy. And then over time, it expands into a massive category. If you're in that stage of actually starting a SaaS business and you're debating between a micro SaaS business or a traditional SaaS business, in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know about starting a SaaS business based on my 15 years of experience and having started multiple SaaS products. And I'm going to walk you through the difference between a micro SaaS and a traditional SaaS and how to pick between the two and why it may not even matter. But when you follow these 3 principles, you're going to get the exact same framework that I use to take an idea and bring it to market and drive it to revenues. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon where you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're already part of my SaaS go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. Now, you'll notice over here that there's a slight difference in the backdrop. Right over there, there's a whiteboard, and now there's a TV. I have not owned a TV since 2018, but I had to go buy a TV, and I had to get this whiteboard. I had to set it up in the middle of my living room because we are having our first in-person go-to-market CEO mastermind here in Dallas, Texas. And then in the evening, we're bringing a lot of people in our community together. If you didn't get an invite for this, chances are you're not on our mailing list, so be sure to grab a copy of our 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide at the link below, so you get on our mailing list, because we're doing a whole bunch of these events to bring our community together. But I digress. I remember when I was starting ToutApp, I started off, honest to God, as a micro SaaS business. I was like, I just want to build a tool, and I want people to sign up for it and do a trial and swipe their credit card. I don't want any sales. I just want to convert to paid users and build a tool that's really, really useful. That's how ToutApp started. Now, needless to say, if you've been following my story, or if you have followed my story, ToutApp grew to a venture-backed business. We pioneered the sales engagement category, which is now a $5 billion category. It was backed by the likes of Andreessen Horowitz. By no means invest in small ideas, let alone micro SaaS ideas. So what happened? What I learned is a lot of billion-dollar categories, a lot of billion-dollar software platforms start off as a tool. It starts off as a small little thing, and then over time, because we keep serving the customer and giving them what they want, it grows into something massive. Which begs the question, if you're at this stage where you're looking to start a SaaS business and you're determining, like, do I do a micro SaaS business? Do I do a SaaS business? The art of the start does not change, believe it or not. In fact, it's the people that try to over-engineer the scale of a business that tend to fail. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles that I've learned the hard way on how to start a SaaS business effectively, and also the differences between a micro SaaS business and a SaaS business. And by the end of this, you're going to know exactly what you need to do to get to initial revenues. So if you're excited to dig into principle number 1, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And let's dig right into it. The first big thing you need to understand as you're deciding on your SaaS idea, whether it's micro SaaS or not, is your total addressable market. The market that you're going after. The people that say this is for everybody and it's going to be massive and it's going to be so huge are the ones that typically fail. But thinking about your target market and thinking about exactly who you're going after is super important, regardless of the size of business you're going after, the type of business you're going after. Now, does it differ? Yes. For a micro SaaS business, you tend to go for a micro market. That's where the name comes from, partially. You tend to go for a small and niche market, a very specific group of people that can use the specific offering that you're creating with an urgent, important problem. If you're going after a traditional SaaS business and you're thinking about, hey, I want to go raise venture capital, then you need to go for a big, huge market. You need to be solving that scale of a problem, because the reality is most venture capitalists that you're going to be talking to have, let's just say, $100 million fund. They're going to deploy a whole bunch of investments, and any one investment has to at least get to 100 million in revenue so they can sell for $1 billion and they can return the fund. That's the math. That's the rough math of it. And if it's anything less, they're just not going to invest in you because it's not big enough, not risky enough of an idea to have that kind of upside. The difference here is you may go after a very small idea for a micro SaaS business, but for a SaaS business that you're raising money for, you're gonna have to show how it's a very large market. And this is one of the biggest things I learned as I went through my SaaS journey. First-time founders tend to think about features and building a tool. Second-time founders first think about market. What is the urgent and important problem that I'm solving, and how do I really, really crush it in that market? And how do I make sure it's a worthy enough market to go after? So that's principle number one. You wanna think about what market you're going after. If it's a micro SaaS business, think about a very, very specific market, because let's be real, you're not raising any money, you just wanna solve a problem, and then you wanna actually then grow it from there. If you're going after venture capital, you're trying to build a traditional SaaS business, you need to be going after a very large market, and then you need to kind of back into that and say, what do we solve first? The second principle is thinking about the type of SaaS product you're building, the price that you're going to be going at, and your distribution. This is kind of the meat of what your go-to-market strategy is going to be. And a lot of times people obsess about the features, and while that is important, thinking about how you're gonna go to this market and configure these key components is gonna be very, very important. Let me explain what the differences are. For a micro SaaS business, you will tend to build a tool which solves a very specific problem that augments a whole bunch of other things that people may already be using in terms of their software. You're probably not going to build a brand new CRM system or a giant platform that the entire department runs on. So for a micro SaaS business, you're probably going to be building a tool. For a traditional SaaS business, you're going to be aiming to build some sort of platform or some sort of massive system that they're going to be running off of. And this could be a system of record, this could be a system of engagement, this could be a system of decision. And there are different types of SaaS businesses, but those are the three golden types. I covered that more in this video. You don't have to go anywhere right now, but you can check it out later. I'll also link to it below. The second thing is, if you're going after building a micro SaaS business, you likely aren't gonna have salespeople. Meaning it's a micro SaaS, it's a tool. People are not gonna pay that much for it. So you literally can't afford salespeople. You cannot pay salespeople to sell it because you can't charge enough. Why can't you charge enough? Because people aren't gonna pay you that much for a small problem that you're solving. It's likely going to be product-led growth, meaning they're gonna sign up for a trial, they're gonna try out the product, and they're gonna swipe the credit card, and then they're gonna convert. There's no salespeople, you can't pay them. And likely it's gonna be anywhere from $9 a month to $99 per month to start. Once you start thinking about paying for ads to generate traffic, to get them into your trial, because even if you're product-led, you still need marketing, you may realize you can't afford to charge $9 a month. You actually have to start at $30 a month, otherwise the math won't work out. But that's kind of the price range you'll start at, and then maybe over time you can upsell them to higher tiers and they'll pay more once they trust you. Whereas in a SaaS business, a traditional SaaS business, if you're building a more sophisticated system, it's going to be hard for you to be purely product-led. And everyone said you could be product-led for all kinds of companies, but now the pendulum is turning the other way. People are realizing you need some sort of hybrid, which means that you may have some form of trial, some form of product-led, but it's still gonna be with sales and customer success to retain the revenue. And because it's hybrid, you have to pay these people to retain that revenue and to acquire that revenue and to talk to those customers. And because they're expensive, you probably have to start at 20K per year or more. Could you charge 5K a year? Maybe. Your math won't work. That will be the problem you face later on. But if you're at 20K and your salespeople are closing 20K deals and you have customer success people managing those customers and retaining them, and recurring revenue kicks in at 20K a year or more because you grow them, then you have a business. The unit economics are gonna work. These are the kind of the key differences between the product mixes and the go-to-market strategies that you can bring when you're doing a micro SaaS business or a SaaS business. You can start to see the power in this. Before I go to principle number 3, that really goes into exactly how these pieces come together and the fundamental difference and why I think that every great SaaS business starts as a micro SaaS. Before I get into all of that, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? What you're starting to see here, if anything, is it doesn't start with the product, it starts with the market. The market you're going after and the problem you're solving dictates what kind of product, how much they'll pay, and how you need to sell it. That's how it goes. You don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I want to build a product-led company because I want to. You do it because your market wants to buy that way, and you price it that way, and you solve that kind of problem. But if you're building a giant system of record and you're trying to displace big competitors and you're trying to go after a large market so that you can raise venture capital and go for that kind of scale and go for that kind of swing, you pretty much need to go for a big platform or system type play. You need to be charging enough so that you can afford salespeople, so that you can go after that large market, because those people won't just do a trial, they want to talk to a human. So a lot of times, and this baby TK made this mistake, people start the other way around. They have an idea, they build the product, and then they say, I want to be product led, and they try to find a market to use it. But the power in this, if you're starting a SaaS business and you're trying to determine micro SaaS or SaaS, you kind of start with market first, and then you get into, well, what is the urgent, important problem we're solving? How important is it to them? How much are they willing to pay for that amount? What do we need to do? And how do they want to buy? And let's build the appropriate platform for that. And then you can start to make decisions on what type of business is appropriate for the problem that you're looking to solve. If you start to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? That way I know you're with me. And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that, and so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. Also, if you're in the stage where you're trying to figure out like, hey, how do I make all this stuff work? Be sure to grab a completely free copy of my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. Inside of the guide, I go into more principles around how to actually structure the strategy around your SaaS business so you don't waste months building the wrong product. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll link to it below. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this episode. Let's go to principle number 3. The third principle that you want to think about is upside. This is something that you want to think about no matter what business you are creating. And the question is, how big can this get? How big can this get in terms of the number of people in the planet that actually need this software product? How big can this get in terms of the size of the market? How big can this get in terms of how many employees we're going to need to solve and service the customers that we're bringing on? So it's not like, oh, I want to build $1 billion company, I'll create a micro SaaS business. It's not like that. It's more about what does this problem and market you're going after and the type of product you're building to meet that problem and solve it, and how much you're charging, what kind of upside exists for that kind of business. Now, this is one of those things where it does kind of sound like MBA-ish, doesn't it? Right? And maybe it is. You know, I love product. I love product, but I learned the hard way that you got to get market and go to market right in order to earn the right to build great products. Otherwise, people won't download your product or use your product or sign up for your product or buy your product. While product is important and features are important, so many people, including myself, waste months building the wrong product because we obsess over the product instead of obsessing over the market and the type of business model we're going after. And ultimately, micro SaaS and SaaS are two different business models depending on the scale of the market that you're going to be serving. And so it comes down to a question of upside. Well, the reality is, in terms of a micro SaaS business, you're probably going to be a solo team, meaning it's just you, to maybe less than 10 people. These type of businesses don't require a lot of money. A micro SaaS business is probably going to get to about $1 million ARR. Now, are there bigger ones? Absolutely. But are there exceptions? Most likely. But that's still a lot of money if it's just 1 or 2 people. That's like $500K each, and maybe your profits, you keep 80% of the money. And so that's really great. And software just runs itself, and maybe you have an outsourced support team. Like, it could be really cool. It could be really empowering. And then you could sell it for a 10x multiple to a large company. All those things are true. So I'm not poo-pooing on micro SaaS. In fact, I love micro SaaS. I own a micro SaaS business that prints money, and it's great. But there is a limit to how big this market is going to be, and there is a limit to the competitive dynamics and how much you can charge and how many customers you can get. And so therefore, you're not going to lead a large team, and it's going to cap out a certain amount of revenue. And you can change this number to whatever you feel your math tells you based on your market size and how much you're charging and how much you can spend on marketing based on how much it costs for you to acquire a customer, all those things. Now, on the traditional SaaS side, you can get to 10,000 employees. There are companies that are at billion plus or even 10 billion plus in ARR. You can get to massive impact. Now, is there still impact here? Absolutely. It's still software, so there's scalable impact here. This one person that builds his $1 million ARR company or maybe $5 million ARR company could have scalable impact. But this is a juggernaut. So the upside tends to be different. And that's also important for you to consider as you're thinking about, do I do a micro SaaS business or a SaaS business, depending on what kind of scale you want to operate at. Now, I'll give you some personal advice. You're not asking for it, but I'll tell you anyway. If this is your first time building a company, a SaaS company, start with a micro SaaS, make it successful, and then move to SaaS. Secure the bag on this one, make a bunch of money on this one, and then go into the venture game. But that's just my opinion. You can do it your own way. You can do it any way you like. But here's the thing. Remember when in the beginning of this episode, I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you want to do a micro SaaS or a SaaS. It's kind of true, because here's the thing. The market you're going after and the scale of the problem you're solving determines whether you should do a micro SaaS business or a SaaS business. Because guess what? If you're going after a very small market and the scale of the problem is not that big, but it's still important and urgent, then no one's gonna fund you. So might as well make it profitable and run it lean and price it appropriately and just sell it. But if you're going after a massive problem, requires a lot of R&D, and you really, really need to make a difference, then start here. But here's the thing. What's the advice people always give you when you're just starting out, regardless of the type of scale you're going after? What they tell you is go for a very specific ideal customer. What they tell you is solve a very specific problem. Show that you can do something. The product solves some problem. You don't need all the features. You just need the 20% that matters the most. And then from there, earn the right to expand. So here's the thing that no one really realizes until I point this out. A micro SaaS business can turn into a SaaS business. No one is going to hold the gun to your head a year later and say, look, TK, you're at $1 million ARR, but you committed to being a micro SaaS business. We are not gonna let you get to 3 million ARR. No one's gonna do that. At $1 million ARR, you're like, wow, I thought I was solving this very small problem. Turns out the market's bigger than I thought, and a lot more people want it, and we can actually go after it. We're uniquely equipped. No one else is doing it. All of a sudden, more opportunities can open up. So a micro SaaS business can turn into a SaaS business. And so many have. This is what happened with me at ToutApp. I just wanted something that just would make the thing go off. Meaning, every single time someone swiped a credit card, my text message would go off. It would make a cash register noise. It would make cha-ching. And that meant that someone signed up for a ToutApp account. Not just a trial, but like converted. And that was magical to me. But eventually there were so many cha-chings, I was like, oh my God, there's a lot more people. And an advisor told me, whoa, it looks like it's mostly salespeople. And there's a lot of salespeople. So then we started to say, cool, I think that I'm gonna switch from being a micro SaaS to a SaaS. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna raise venture capital, and everything took over from there. You can earn the right to actually convert to a SaaS business later. No one's holding a gun to you. And in fact, you're more likely to be successful in building this micro SaaS business than trying to go after something monolithic. You might end up building something that no one really wants and waste months of building the wrong product. So in a way, this is a false choice. You should just start micro. Start micro, solve a very specific problem, differentiate, get the motions going, and then look at, hey, how big is the opportunity? If it's huge, keep expanding. If it's not, then lock it down and take the profits. It's up to you. And that's the power in principle number 3, meaning the upside really depends on the market that you're going after. So to recap, if you're at that stage where you're looking to determine, do I do a micro SaaS business or a SaaS business? What's the difference between a micro SaaS business and a SaaS business? My product led or sales led? My point to you is it doesn't matter. Principle number 1, figure out your total addressable market. What is the urgent and important problem that you're solving, and how many people have it? Based on that, if it's a small market, then you probably should go after doing a tool, charging a small amount, getting a product-led motion going, and getting things moving. You can always decide later, hey, this is a bigger opportunity, let's expand from there. But on the other side, if you're going after a massive problem and you know these people, it's a massive market, and you know that they want a full platform, and they're not gonna take you seriously if you're offering them a credit card trial. They wanna talk to a human, and they wanna write you real money, like a real check, and they actually wanna be fully supported. So you need that salesperson, you need that engineer, you need that product person, you need the full gamut, then go approach it this way. But even if you approach it this way, start small and then expand so you know you're building the right thing. And that's the power in this framework. And that's literally 15 years of learning this the hard way so you don't have to. Now, you know exactly the 3 principles you need to follow to go from your SaaS idea to an initial product that's driving to revenues. And then you can decide, all right, based on everything we have, are we a micro SaaS? Are we a SaaS? What do we do next? And how do we scale? And how do we grow? Now, what you may not know is, hey, TK, how do I start putting all these pieces together? How do I build a proper go-to-market so I can figure out, hey, is there a problem here? Is it urgent and important? And is this the right fit? This is exactly why I created my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. In it, I give you deeper principles on exactly how to think about the target market, your messaging, and how to actually go out to the market and stress test all this so you don't waste months building the wrong product. All you need to do is just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. Getunstoppable.com/strategy. It's completely free. It's chock full of the 5 critical components you absolutely need to know to grow your SaaS business, get to initial revenues, and expand from there. In fact, people with 3 million, 5 million, 10 million in ARR download that guide to figure out how to revamp their go-to-market strategy. And it's completely free, and it links to more episodes inside of this channel. So just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. If you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Just loves it when you do that, and so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. Also, if you have a fellow founder, a team member, if you are part of a Slack group or a WhatsApp group, please share this video in there. We want to help as many SaaS founders as possible, truly. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and And I'll see you in the next episode or inside the 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. That's a mouthful. Link below, or just go to getunstold.com/strategy. Take care, everybody. We're going to do the thing, and then we're going to do the thing. And then we're going to do the thing. All right, let's do this. Charge enough. Why can't you charge enough? Because people aren't going to pay you that. A very specific